1914. The Great War has just ended, but Greece launches a new campaign. Their dream is the Megali Idea, the conquest of Anatolia and the return of lost lands. Yet as Greek soldiers march forward, a new resistance rises among the Turks under Mustafa Kemal. The conflict erupts into a brutal struggle for survival, a war that will forever change both Greece and Turkey. After the end of the First World War, Greece emerged from decades of conflicts in the Balkans, with territories including continental Greece, the Peloponnese, and the Aegean Islands. Although small compared to the great powers, the country enjoyed political support from the Allies, especially Britain, which saw Greece as a reliable partner in controlling the Eastern Mediterranean. The country was filled with a mix of optimism and tension. Politicians and military officials believed that this was the moment to achieve the Megali Idea, the vision of a greater Greece that would include Greek communities in Asia Minor. This goal had strong public support, especially among those living in border areas and the diaspora, but it also sparked fears of conflict with the new Turkish authorities and potential international complications, economically and socially. Greece was in the process of consolidation. Infrastructure and administration were still burdened by the war and the integration of new territories, while military plans had to be coordinated with the Allies. All of this created a complex environment in which decisions about new campaigns and territorial ambitions carried enormous consequences, setting the stage for conflicts that would soon erupt in Anatolia. Before the conflict began, Greece invested significant efforts in reorganizing its armed forces. The focus was on modernizing infantry and artillery, while the navy and transport units were prepared to support amphibious operations on the coast of Asia Minor. The plans envisioned a landing in Izmir, securing the coastal cities before advancing inland. This strategy combined rapid offensive maneuvers with efforts to protect supply and communication lines, as any disruption could seriously jeopardize the campaign. Preparations also took into account the local population, which included large communities of Greeks living in what is now Turkey, as well as Turks who had long been established in the region. Both populations had deep historical ties to the land, making political influence, propaganda, and diplomatic efforts a critical part of the operational planning. Greece aimed to maintain the support of its allies, particularly Britain, which provided logistical and material aid, while other powers watched cautiously, balancing their own interests. Political decisions and military operations were tightly linked, as failure could endanger not only the campaign but Greece's international standing. Meanwhile, civilians at home were mobilized to support the war effort through campaigns and resource collection, creating a sense of collective responsibility and historical mission. The war in Anatolia, which began in 1919, was shaped from the very start by constant troop movements and maneuvering operations. Greek forces landed in Izmir with the aim of quickly securing the coastline and key ports, providing a stable base for advancing inland. The initial focus was on maintaining communication lines and supply routes, as transport and logistics were vital for sustaining forces in unfamiliar and hostile territory. From the very beginning, maneuvers involved deploying infantry and artillery along the roads connecting Izmir with the interior, while engineering units secured river crossings and bridges. By 1920, clashes had spread to the cities of Manisa and Aydın, where Greece sought to consolidate control over the interior routes. Greek troops moved in columns, forming fronts combining infantry, artillery, and cavalry, while scouts monitored enemy movements. The Turks, still organized into separate units and partisan groups, resisted through ambushes, disrupting supplies, and attempting to destabilize Greek columns. Maneuvers were crucial, as small, fast units could strike supply lines and cause panic among troops reliant on a steady flow of ammunition and food. Diplomatic and political factors also played a major role. Greece enjoyed support from Britain, which provided ships, weapons, and advisors, while France and Italy closely monitored the situation, occasionally offering indirect logistical assistance or remaining neutral. These powers did not engage directly in combat, but their involvement and international pressure were key factors in planning Greek operations. By 1921, the clashes had intensified. The Second Battle of İnönü was the first significant test of Turkish resistance, where the Greeks encountered well-organized defensive lines and were forced into temporary retreat. Another crucial engagement, the Battle of Sakarya, demonstrated the increasing consolidation of Turkish forces. The Greek advance inland faced resistance that combined mobility, local terrain knowledge, and coordinated units, forcing Greek formations to continuously adapt. Maneuver operations were also ongoing along the northern Aegean, where Greek and Turkish forces tested weaker positions using mobile units for reconnaissance and sporadic attacks. Greece attempted to control mountain passes and main roads, as movement inland was hindered by difficult terrain and constant local resistance, where mixed Greek and Turkish communities with deep historical ties to the land lived. Meanwhile, within the Ottoman Empire, the situation was rapidly changing. The Sultan, though formally in power, had lost practical authority and was under constant Allied supervision, while various factions and local governors tried to maintain order. Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, was occupied by Allied troops, predominantly British and French, limiting the empire's ability to influence events in Anatolia. On the political stage, Mustafa Kemal emerged, a war hero from Gallipoli, rallying dissatisfied officers and establishing a parallel authority that would soon assume control over the resistance movement. His ability to organize military units, establish logistics, and centralize command was critical to the success of Turkish resistance. By 1922, the conflict reached its climax. Greece launched its final broad offensive inland, attempting to secure front lines and capture strategic cities. Columns moved in multiple directions, often separated by natural barriers, complicating coordination and supply. Turkish forces, already reorganized and mobilized over the preceding years, quickly regrouped and attacked vulnerable Greek positions. The decisive Battle of Dumlupinar saw Greek units encircled and forced to retreat, while Turkish troops continued their advance toward Izmir. Throughout the war, fronts were in constant motion. Maneuver operations involved columns of infantry, cavalry, and artillery, taking control of bridges, heights, and crossroads, continuously repositioning forces and exploiting terrain advantages. The Greek army tried to maintain pressure through constant column movement and securing supply lines, while Turkish forces employed mobile defense tactics, retreating before stronger attacks and concentrating forces where the Greeks were most vulnerable. Although the conflict was primarily between Greece and Turkey, other powers were involved. Britain played a key logistical and political oversight role. France occasionally provided material support, and Italy monitored the situation cautiously, balancing its interests with regional stability. This international involvement influenced the choice of attack routes and speed of maneuvers, as diplomatic pressures and ally support were crucial for operational planning. Over the years, the clashes demonstrated the importance of mobility and the ability to reorganize troops. Every column, river crossing, or mountain pass, every shift in the front line played a crucial role in shaping the war. Maneuver operations and troop movements showed that these battles were wars of constant dynamics, where tactics, speed, and strategic planning determined outcomes. By the end of 1922, Greek forces withdrew toward the coast, while Turkish forces took control of western Anatolia and Izmir, marking the end of a long and bloody campaign. Mustafa Kemal assumed firm control over the new Turkish state, while the Sultan remained formally in place but without real power, and Constantinople remained under Allied supervision as the new republic consolidated control over Anatolia. After the end of the Greco-Turkish War in 1922, the Treaty of Lausanne was signed in 1923, establishing new borders and political relations between Greece and Turkey. As part of this agreement, a compulsory population exchange was arranged, which had profound demographic and social consequences for both countries, according to the Convention on Exchange of Greek and Turkish Populations signed in Lausanne on the 30th of January 1923. About 1.5 million Greek Orthodox Christians from Turkey and 500,000 Muslims from Greece were relocated. The Greeks from Anatolia, especially from regions such as Pontus, Ionia, and Thrace, were forced to leave their homelands and resettle in Greece. Similarly, Muslims from Macedonia, Epirus, and Thrace moved to Turkey. This exchange was not only a physical relocation, but also involved the loss of property, cultural connections, and identity. The population exchange had significant impact on the social and economic structures of both nations in Greece. The arrival of large numbers of refugees created pressure on resources, but also contributed to revitalizing certain regions through labor and agricultural production in Turkey. The loss of a substantial part of the population, especially those with trade and craft skills, led to economic challenges and a reduction in commercial activity after the war. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk emerged as the key figure in Turkish politics as the leader of the Turkish national movement. Atatürk implemented a series of reforms that transformed Turkey into a modern, secular and national state. These reforms included the abolition of the Ottoman Sultan and the Caliphate, the introduction of the Latin alphabet, the secularization of the education system, and the adoption of new laws replacing Islamic. In Greece, the political scene was turbulent after the war. King Constantine I abdicated, and the country experienced a period of instability, including the military coup of 1922 and republican movements. Eventually, Greece became a kingdom under the House of Good-Lucksburg, but political instability persisted with frequent changes of government and crises. The long-term consequences of the population exchange and political reforms were profound. In Turkey, Atatürk's reforms laid the foundation for a modern nation, but also generated resistance from traditional and religious groups in Greece. Integrating the large number of refugees was challenging, yet it contributed to the cultural and social enrichment of the country. Both nations experienced lasting demographic, economic, and political transformations that shaped their future trajectories and defined their national identities for decades to come.